Hello, this is David from DN Cognitive Counseling. Today we're going to be discussing about parenting and developing the relationship through the use of giving time. There was a very famous psychologist, Dr. Spock, not to be confused with Mr. Spock from Star Trek, that came up with an idea that has gained traction through parenting and parenting courses and people talking about, and that is the term quality time. I'm sure you've all heard it. It's become that popular. And what quality time meant for a lot of people is that it's less important to spend a lot of time with your kids, and it's more important that the time that you're spending with them is quality time, that you're involved with them and doing things with them. And this idea came about because a lot of parents had to work and they couldn't spend as much time with their children. So this psychologically felt really good to a lot of parents to hear, if I spend quality time with my kids, then I don't need to spend as much time with them, and then therefore I could assuage my guilt and my need to be able to spend time with them, and our relationship will be just as strong. And Dr. Spock became very famous because of that. So I wanted to read to you an article in reference to this called Quality Time. It goes like this. When both parents or single parents have outside jobs, they usually try to arrange work schedules that will give them the maximum time with their young children. In two-parent families, the attention of one parent at a time can be quite satisfying to the children. Preschool children can be regularly allowed to stay up late in the evenings, if it's possible for them to have regularly sleep late in the mornings or have a nap at daycare. The exact number of hours of companionship is less important than the quality or spirit of the time spent together. This is what's behind the expression quality time. From a particular point of view, quality time implies interactions that are close, nurturing, and lovingly responsive. Quality time can occur during driving time, meal times, any all-around routine times that are together. Trips to the supermarket or department store can always be enhanced with the time for talking and listening and teaching. So quality time does not imply doing anything out of the ordinary. It is the accumulated day-to-day interactions, not dramatic trips to the circus, that have the most profound effect on the child's development. The idea of quality time in itself is fine, but I'm concerned that a few conscientious, hardworking parents take this as an obligation to be talking, playing, and reading with the children long after patience and enjoyments have run out. Parents who regularly ignore their own needs and wishes in order to provide the quality time for the children may come to resent the sacrifices and then the spirit of the friendliness and responsiveness, and it will dissipate. And a child who senses that he can make his parent give him more time than the parent feels like giving is encouraged to become pesky and demanding. I have another concern about the expression quality time. Some parents misinterpret the phrase to mean that it really doesn't matter how much time they spend with their children, as long as the time they spend is jam-packed with quality. But quantity of time is also important. Time spent together in unexciting tasks, such as mundane interactions. Children need to simply be around their parents, watching them in action, learning from their day-to-day example, and knowing they're an important part of their lives. The trick is to find the right balance, to spend as much time as possible with your children, but not at the expense of fulfilling some of your own personal needs. Now, the author of that article was Dr. Benjamin Spock. So he himself, after he wrote about quality time, had two issues that he was worried about. One is that the parent is going to put a false sense of, hi, I'm so happy to be around you, and fake it and hurt the child that way. And the other is saying, well, I did quality time, so I don't need to spend enough time with the child. And both things are true. And sadly, both have come to fruition, as I've seen many, many years and over a long course of time. People confuse quality time without understanding what it really means. And that's where we get into a lot of problems. I put my children in the best programs. I give them the best aspects. I keep them scheduled, so that they're going to be the best. And what ends up happening is I get a child who is emotionally insecure and can't really tolerate much. Well, here I gave them the best. Because what does giving time really mean? It means that you need to participate in your children's activities. There was a very famous experiment, many of you might have heard it, called about Harlow's monkeys. And it was basically you put a baby monkey in a cage with a skeleton of a mother in a metal skeleton, and then one with the skeleton that's covered by fur, and then one skeleton covered by fur that had, the ability to feed, and it was more and more mimicking the mother. And they found that the monkeys that had the closest to the real mother did better than the ones that had further those traits that were further away from the mother. Now, obviously, none of these monkeys were having a mother, but the simulation was running closer and closer aspects to it. And the monkeys that had the least were more neurotic and had more problems. Think about your relationship with your spouse or, girlfriend or boyfriend. What would the relationship be like if you weren't giving each other a lot of time in that relationship? When you hear people who have had children 20, 30 years, and then they get divorced, and you ask them what happened, they say, we grew apart. Why? Because they weren't giving any time to the relationship. The same thing happens with our kids. A lot of times our kids will latch on to their friends or their groups, and they go outside the family, and that becomes their primary relationships because we didn't give them enough time. For those of you who are watching the second season of Cobra Kai, which, by the way, was very, very good, you see that the adults that develop the relationship with the kids, those are the ones that become the strongest relationships. And that's really what has to happen. When you give time to those relationships, it builds. So, you have to ensure that when you're spending time with kids that you're giving the time to them for watching them in their activities. So if your child is involved in sports, then you want to see their sporting events. If they're involved in ballet or art, you want to see their projects or what they've done or their recitals. You want them to reveal who they are to you, but you want to reveal who you are to them. And that can only happen when you spend time with them. You want to be by celebrations, family events. Include your children in your activities. And one of the things that we have where I work is a video about juveniles, children that are 15, 16, 17 years old who've committed very severe violent crimes. Some of them are gang related, and there was a scene where one of the gang members is waiting for his father to come for visitation. Now, he was 16 or 17 years old, and the father does not show up. And the next thing you see is in his cell with his pillow over his face. It doesn't matter how tough you are or what you've done. Your need for that time and for somebody to give you that time is imperative. Your children thirst for it. In your relationship, you thirst for it. And one of the things that if you do and you utilize giving time, as well as all the other things I discussed in the past parenting webinars, discipline becomes much easier. It actually is the easiest thing to do in the world, to discipline at that point. Because the relationship is so strong that the children are almost like you would see the mother duckling and all the ducklings follow in a row, because the relationships and the bonds are so strong. Many times, the issues that we have with discipline has to do with the poor connections in the relationship. I hope that you like this video and you'll hit like. Please hit subscribe. And if you have a comment, please make it. A question, please write it. And if you disagree with this video or dislike it for any reason, please tell me why. I'd love to hear it. And again, if you'd like to become a patron to this endeavor, please hit the Subcribe-star link and become a patron. Thank you very much, and I hope you'll join me next time when we start the process of discipline.